right, well, good morning, everyone. We're going to kick this off right now to our statewide school facility monthly meeting. Welcome, and especially to any of our first-time attendees or new members. If you have a second and you haven't joined us before, maybe go ahead and just put your name in the chat box and what company you're with or what district you're with, and maybe we can then just give a shout out to you. So I just want to say thank you for joining our monthly virtual meeting. I know it's been a little different in our COVID world, and we look forward to getting back with everyone in person soon. So next slide up. If you have a second, please check your inbox. We have the Cash Weekly Update email newsletter, and there's tons of information there and new things going on with a summary of the latest news, events, workshops, conferences, professional opportunities, all kinds of different items in there. So I know you get lots of emails in your inbox, but if you have a second, please take a look at it. We would appreciate it. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so resources. If you've been to any of our monthly webinars or web shops, you hear me talk about this. Our Cash page, we have a COVID-19 resource link on the Cash page, and all of our past webinars are there if you want to take a look at those. Current information on the COVID-19, what's happening with schools. So if you have a chance, need info, take a chance and look at that. So, all right, next slide. All right, so we've got our March web shop part 2 coming up. We had our March 1 part, our first part of that March web shop was actually held on March 11th, and we talked about estimating, budgeting, scheduling, advertising, construction projects. So our second one, which is coming up tomorrow, is will address the fundamental topic of preparing for school construction projects and what that means. And we had some very interesting conversation earlier in the day with how what we're going to be doing about our enrollment counts and things like that. So registration and full details of the web shop for part 2 can be found on the Cash website. So take a second and take a look at that, and hopefully you can join us tomorrow. It is a 2-hour one. It's not our monthly webinars, which are about 30 minutes. So, all right, the next up, speaking of our webinars, is we have our Cash has 2 webinars and 2-part web shop scheduled for the month of April. So lots of stuff going on. So the Cash 2021 web series will continue on Thursday, April 1st, and then again on Thursday, April 15th. And that will be continue to work on reopening schools. Many of our districts have experienced reopening already. So we're going to be reaching out and talking to those districts that have, and hopefully share with our other districts that are just getting ready to, and we can hear lessons learned and learn from each other there. We also have our Cash Maintenance Network web shop, and that's on federal and state funding with the AB 41 Indoor Quality Energy and Water, and that's on Thursday, April 8th. And then the second part will be on Thursday, April 22nd. So for registration and full details, again, visit our Cash website, and you can get registered, and there'll be a couple more emails coming around also, so you can open those and register through those. All right, our next slide is, we have our first state agency update. It's the Division of State Architect, and we have Ida Claire, who is will be speaking on what's going on at DSA. Welcome, Ida. How are you doing?
Good morning, Julie. Thanks for having me present today and join all of you at your monthly meeting. May I share my screen?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Sorry, I always give a little bit of hiccup here. Okay, so I am not going to attempt to go into full PowerPoint mode, and so just share on the large slides because it always throws me off. So a little bit about an update at DSA. We have a new Sacramento Regional Office Manager who we've selected, Harlan Raymont. He has already started, and we're very excited to have Harlan be the regional office manager. Harlan, if you don't know, was the principal fire life safety, was the supervisor for the fire and life safety division in Sacramento, and has now been promoted to regional office manager. We've also elected or selected Chris Morton as the Oakland interim regional office manager. He can have this position until July 17th while Des is out on medical leave. We really hope Dessa joins us back sooner than July 17th, but this gives her time to recuperate. And we also have selected a new principal structural engineer in the headquarters unit. However, because it's still going through approvals, we probably will wait. We will wait to make that announcement, and it'll probably happen around mid-April. And also last Friday, we just received notice that Department of General Services has a new director, and it is Anna Lasso, and she comes from Los Angeles. And I believe she has experience with DSA and probably with cash, as she used to work in LA Unified School District. So we're excited to have Anna be our leader of the Department of General Services. She begins April 19th. A little bit about projects and plan review. This month, we have $665 million in construction being submitted on top of what was submitted last month, if you recall, was over 1 billion. So we are busy. This month, busiest office is San Diego with $225 million in plan review, and Oakland and LA with $170 million in plan review. Sacramento is the slowest region right now. Looking ahead in April, we have $784 million already planning to be submitted in April. And May, with 2 weeks, into 2 weeks into May, we have a total of 62 million. So you can see that DSA is very busy with plan review, and that means all of you are busy as well. A little bit about our revised publications that are coming. IREB4 still in development, but it will be released soon. It's part of about 6 IRs that are going to be released with regard to existing buildings. But this one is how we are substantiating the cost comparison for building replacement using OPSC figures that are updated annually. So that will be coming soon. We have issued clarifications to DSA 1L, the outdoor water use self-certification. Nothing incredibly substantive, just makes the application form a little clearer. We do have school reopening publications still in effect. Again, we are still prioritizing projects related to COVID-19. And I presented both of those bulletins before, or the bulletin and the IR. And then, of course, we have issued Bulletin 2101 for schools participating in the AB 841 program. Those, you can find all those documents on our website. We do have structural safety rulemaking happening. The 22 administrative code is the proposed amendment is that construction shall commence within 4 years of approval. Extensions no longer apply. The 2022 building code is being amended. The structural safety unit is amending the 2022 building code by repealing the early adoption of mass timber and adopting the provisions in the IPC for mass timber. And the other edits are to technical requirements in the CBC, just address clarity and consistency, but do not propose significant changes in practice. We just held our outreach, I believe it was on March 12th for schools. And so many of you may have participated in that rulemaking, but the link to the rulemaking for the structural safety code development is provided on this slide. And if you need these slides, I can send them to you, Julie. The 2022 California Building Code, Chapter 11B, these are the accessibility provisions. Nothing significant, really just clarity and consistency. Probably the main one is separating scoping for entrances and exterior ground floor exits, and moving the exterior ground floor exits to a more appropriate location and addressing clarity. But there really isn't anything significant. We are actually focusing on our resources, our design resources this code cycle. So our code package is pretty light. We will be having a public meeting on, I believe, April 9th. So if you attend our access compliance code development public meetings, you should be receiving a notice soon. A little bit about Cal Green. We are having a workshop on March 30th, which is in a week. We will be discussing some amendments to the CO2 monitor proposal that we had put forth before. But the biggest change is the requirement for EVCS for charger installation when you're installing electric vehicle charging station infrastructure. Presently, the requirements that will take effect July 1st require 10% of EV capable space, 10% of parking for EV capable spaces to be installed, but requires no charger. This is for the 2022 Cal Green Code, which will require chargers to be installed based on these proposed levels. Again, if you want to hear more or comment on these proposals, please attend our Cal Green workshop on March 30th. And you should receive notice if you are on our listserv. And if you're not yet on our listserv, you can sign up on our website. 22 Energy Code is moving into its 45-day public process, I believe, in April. It does address, it is gaining speed into really improving the energy efficiency of our buildings in alignment with the Governor Brown and Governor Newsom's energy goals. Prescriptive and performance method will be based on heat pump technology. And if you still want to use gas systems, you basically can use the performance method, but you're going to really need to beef up the building envelope in order to comply. Of course, if you are from if your school district is in zone 1 or zone 16 being Sierra Nevada, Lake Tahoe area, zone 1 being Northern California coast, you can meet the energy requirements with dual fuel. Photovoltaics will be required as part of each building construction. And however, the energy code does not address cooking or other gas end uses. And again, there's a link here provided so that you can get information on Energy Commission's outreach. A little bit about our sustainability education and outreach. Again, I've talked before about the mechanical acceptance test training. That link is on our website. We encourage your facility managers to watch so that they can use the reports that the Energy Commission has to annually test operational efficiency of HVAC systems and controls. We do have an information video about the Getting to Zero Over Time K-12 schools cohort. If you're interested in future cohorts, that might be a good video for you to watch. It's about an hour long. And that's also on our Achieving Net Zero Energy and Net Zero Carbon in School Facilities webpage. And soon we are working on a presentation on induction cooking for school food service facilities with Frontier Energy and PG&E, and that is anticipated in June or July. So if you do subscribe to our listserv, you will also be getting information on that induction cooking presentation. And then, of course, as a last update, we did have our first public school construction collaborative meeting on March 12th. And what we covered was basically a little more in detail, of course, but we covered our code proposals as I've covered today. And again, there's a link here to our PSCC webpage. Just a reminder, you can subscribe on our webpage at a link on the bottom for any of further information and updates on any of these programs that we have running, especially the code development, which is very active right now. We're proceeding into Code Advisory Committee meetings. Other than that, I'm done and I can take questions.
I did see one question of in our chat where I think Brent was asking for a copy of the PowerPoint. I think you mentioned you were going to send it to us.
I can send it to you. Would you, Caitlin? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Send it to Caitlin. That would be great. And we'll try and we'll either put it on the cache website or we'll put a link in the chat box here.
Okay,
Not seeing any other questions right now. Other than that, really good information. Um, Again, I've got a couple of big projects coming in, so I'm always concerned on timelines with what your projects are. So, but that's
exactly.
so much for sharing all that information.
Sure. Thank you.
We'll see you, Ida.
Bye-bye.
We have our other state agency update with the Department of Education, and we have John Gordon with us. John, you want to come on to the video screen?
Yeah, I'm not able to start.
Oh,
Well, aloha.
nice.
Well, good
My
morning.
view is not as nice as yours, John.
Well, I was on vacation last month and was able to get to the get away for a bit, so it's nice to.
Nice. Good for you. Good for you. Good.
Thank you. So I'm glad to be back. There's been a lot going on in the actually within the last week, but I did want to start off with my update to share that in competition with Cash, CDE is actually having a webinar tomorrow via Facebook. Our superintendent, Thurman, will be conducting a 1-hour webinar on Facebook on how to keep classrooms safe for all schools, lessons and successes from California schools. So this webinar will include successful strategies for sustaining safe in-person learning in the months ahead, as well as providing resources for ventilation upgrades, implementing rapid COVID-19 testing. We will have representatives from the California Energy Commission who will provide information on AB 841, as well as someone from the National Energy Management Institute who will discuss proper ventilation and filtration. So if you're not able to make the webinar on Facebook, we are going to be recording it. It will be on the CDE website at a later time. And as you're probably aware, with AB 86, last Friday, CDE posted our estimated grants for LEAs for the $6.6 billion that's made available through AB 86 to reopen schools, and provide expanded learning opportunities. The funds must be spent by August 31st of 2022. There are two pots of money, one being the in-person instruction and the other one being expanded learning. So real brief, because I'm sure Cash is going to probably cover this. In-person grants can be used for the purposes associated with in-person instruction, which includes COVID-19 testing, cleaning, disinfection, PPEs, some ventilation, salaries, social and mental health support services. And the expanded learning opportunities grant, which is 4.6 of the 6.6 billion, can be used for instant instructional time, learning supports, counseling, things of those natures, as well as training. So the Department of Education is in the process of posting frequently asked questions to provide more resources to districts. If you do have questions, we do have two separate email boxes that districts can send to. So for the in-person instructional grants part, the email address is in-person-grants, all one word, in-person-grants @cde.ca.gov. And then the expanded learning is ELO grants. So ELO, like the band, ELO grants @cde.ca.gov. On the federal end, there's also federal funding under the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief, which is also known as ESSERS. This funding can be used for several purposes. It seems like there might be some overlap with AB 886. However, what I found is that some of the funding can be used for testing, repairing, upgrading projects to improve air quality in school buildings. Now, what that looks like can be a bunch of different things. The district may apply, but the district has to demonstrate how the project can be an allowable use. I do want to say that this is a federal program, so it doesn't necessarily come through my office. You will be working with my colleagues in the Government Affairs Division. And conversation we had with them yesterday, they talked about how many districts have, accessed the CARES money, which was the federal money before. I think they said about 99%. But so far with the ESSER's funding, they're not seeing it being utilized as much as maybe it could be. So please work with your districts, have conversations, see if there's a way, maybe if there's some facilities components that you might be able to advocate for, to ensure that that there is improving the air quality in the classrooms at the school. They're also working on a frequently asked questions. You can email the team at CDE. Again, it's through our government affairs, but their email account is Ed Relief Funds. That's plural. Ed Relief Funds, one word, at cde.ca.gov. If you want to check out the federal legislation page, it has these funding sources on there. Just go to the CDE website, and in the search button, just type in federal stimulus funding, and that should get you there. The last piece that I could probably talk about very briefly, as you may know, on Friday, the CDC and the California Department of Health have updated their documents and their guidance documents. I could maybe highlight some really briefly on CDC. They recommended now 3 feet as opposed to 6 feet of distance in the classrooms, assuming everyone is wearing a mask. They've clarified that ventilation is a key component of strategies to clean and maintain healthy inside facilities. They've recommended removing the physical barriers in the classrooms. And then they also added some guidance on interventions when instruction clusters, when there are clusters occurring. So definitely check those out, both CDC and CDPH. And I think with that, that's my update. So are there any questions?
I'm not seeing any questions right now in the chat box, but it's interesting, John. We had a discussion a little earlier with a couple districts about from the 3 feet, the 6 feet to the 3 feet, and what that actually means. And it's tough because a lot of districts have already put together their agreements with their teachers unions. And that's part of it right there. I know ours specifies 6 feet. So for the remainder of this year, we're going to stay probably at 6 feet and with all the preventions in place. But it's a tough one, because does the 3 feet allow you to have a full class, or are you still at a half a class? Because you don't want to just have, maybe 7 or 8 kids not, fit, right? And so those are the tough things to kind of weigh as we look at each of our classrooms for that.
Well, one aspect of that, and that's a great point, because there have been a lot of conversations with the teachers unions and getting, where is a tipping point, and hopefully maybe for some districts there may be some flexibility to maybe that they're having 10 or 12 students and they can get up to 18 before the end of the school year, or there's a little bit of movement. So at least it provides some flexibility.
It does. I think more so at your middle and high school levels, where you have more students in a classroom, that we were worried about even just hitting the 50% mark, right, on that with that 6 feet. For our younger grades, again, probably staying at that 50-50 on there. We'll do that just because, our TK through third, we have, less students in a classroom.
Yeah.
But those high school levels, we like to jam as many kids as we can into there. So in that case, it will definitely help. It was good to have an update on the guidelines. I think that was important for them to take a look at that. We do have a question that came in the chat, and Eric is asking, could you please provide us a link for tomorrow's webinar by the SBI?
I can. Let me do that, because it was kind of funky how the Department of Ed how, because we've had different webinars via Facebook. Let me find the right link and I'll send it to Caitlin. Caitlin can send it out to the group.
That would be great.
Unless I can find it here, and then maybe I could also put it in the chat. I'll try to configure something, but I will definitely get it out. Thank you.
Okay, John, great. Thank you. That will be helpful. Okay, and I do see that Craig just said it's on Facebook. For those who go on Facebook, and we'll get into that. So, all right, let's move on to our next slide here. Our last state agency update is from the Office of Public School Construction, and we have Lisa Silverman with us. Hey, Lisa, you want to come on the screen?
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. We're going to have a short meeting today. Short and sweet, which is good. Save a lot of time. But well, besides having some grant approvals today, I believe around 85 million or so, we do want to share some announcements. Besides the Treasurer's Office executing a successful spring bond sale, we did want to announce to the board and to the districts. We will be bringing forward some apportionments, and I'm sorry, my team's notes are going off like crazy. About 520 million will be bringing apportionments back to April. So that will be a great meeting for April to be bringing apportionments. So that's exciting news that we wanted to share with the board tonight. And besides that, the other update we wanted to share with the board is we've been hitting a very high pace with these virtual trainings. And we actually had a few more this month, besides the facility hardship and seismic mitigation program training. If you didn't have that opportunity, and the 3 list, we hit those 2 of those this month, and the OPSC online. So if you didn't have an opportunity to do that, that is on our virtual webpage. And so that will be posted already. We will actually have one this Friday on eligibility and how to do that online. And again, it will be probably about 45 minutes long. And also how to submit a funding application on OPSC online. And that will be also next Tuesday. And so far, it's kind of an easy walkthrough process. Some of our team members have been really great about doing that. So again, I want to encourage those folks, if you're not familiar with OPSC Online, this is a great tool, an opportunity to submit items to us through our online feature. And we also have additional training opportunities in April, 2 of them to be exact. You can actually submit a priority and funding process certification in April. So that will be an item that we'll be featuring in an online process. So again, let's forget about paper and let's do that for the next priority filing round coming up. And then as a reminder, we thought if you already have a career tech education program grant, there's also some reminders we want to tuck away for an online training process. So that will also be in April as well. So look forward April 13th as another training opportunity, and April 15th. So by the middle of April, we'll already hit 10 virtual training classes online again, and we'll have 2 more coming up. We'll have additional announcements to look forward to sharing with you folks. Financial hardship, and then also another opportunity in the summer for substantial progress. So again, we're on this virtual roll right now with this online training tutorial. So we're looking forward to have more to come in the near future. And I would say in the fall, after we go through this product development, grant agreements. So, and anyway, so we're looking forward to having more online training. But again, next month is the great announcements we want to share is the bond sale. So thank you again. And we're looking forward to having a very short and quick meeting today. But one other announcement I wanted to share with you. I know a lot of you folks have been working with Candace Lee, and she is very much a remarkable individual in our office, and she's been working in appeals. Well, we are happy to announce that Candace has been promoted, and she'll be taking over PVT. So we've been thankful that she's been working for appeals for a number of past few years. So we appreciate her leadership in that area, but she'll be taking over PVT. So with that, I will open up to any questions.
Well, I didn't see any questions come in, but I have worked with Candace Lee for years and years. And she, as our project manager, when she was for Palm Springs, she was just awesome. So looking forward for her to move on up and do PDT. So that will be great.
Yeah, she's a great individual, and she definitely works very hard, and she definitely wants a problem solver. So she really has the interest of resolving issues for and going the extra mile for district. So looking forward to her transitioning her new role. So thank you again for having us. So
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right.
Lee. Appreciate
all
it.
right, take care.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye.
Okay, next up, we've got our legislative, regulatory, and maintenance network updates. And we have Nancy Shares Espinoza and Ian Padilla, who's going to share with us today. Nancy, are you up first?
I am.
Great.
Here I am. I was looking for the right button. So happy to be with you today. I'll be providing the cash update. My colleague Ian will be providing the update for the School Energy Coalition. And I also have a brief update for you today. So first, I want to locate everyone where we are chronologically with respect to the legislative year. We had a lot of action early on with respect to the budget because of the pandemic, the fiscal emergency, and the governor's request for some urgent early action budget items. But now those have really subsided, and we are at the time of the year where the policy committees are busy with their consideration of bills. So that has already begun, and we will be in that situation till really May, when the Department of Finance or the governor release the May revision, and the budget committees will resume their work again in preparation for the 21-22 fiscal year budget. That doesn't mean that the legislature will have finished its consideration of bills. Rather, they will have more or less finished their work with bills that originated in their house. And then after that point, they will, all the bills that survive the first house go over to the second house and go through the same process, a legislative and maybe a fiscal review, and then through the floor of that house. John mentioned, and I'm sure none of you have missed, the revised CDC guidance on distancing of students in classrooms. Nuance is really important here. The details matter. And CDPH conformed to that guidance, I believe, on Saturday. Something important for folks to consider here is that many of our districts were able to, I hate to use the term take advantage of, but to I guess, find something positive in a very unfortunate situation. And we're able to accelerate many of their modernization projects since we didn't have students on campus for the most part. And in the coming years, in the near future, next, I don't know, at least a couple of years, we'll find ourselves in a very different situation in that due to both the CDPH distancing guidelines, meaning that we can, for the most part, invite our kids back onto campus full time, and the legislature support of what they're calling learning loss recovery or different terms. It means that many of our districts will be offering extended day, extended year, or other types of enhancements. So our campuses will be very busy. They will be very populated. So that is just something I want to make sure it's on everybody's radar as you're looking to get continued improvements done to your campuses. Real quick update on the two school facilities bond bills. AB 75 by Mr. O'Donnell is set to be heard on April 7th in the Assembly Committee on Education, and by April 23rd in the Assembly Committee on Appropriations. Whereas Mr. O'Donnell had previously communicated that he would not be substantively amending the bill in the first house, that appears to be in flux, and they are now considering some non-controversial but substantive amendments into AB 75. Specifically, the conversation they're having with stakeholders is, what elements of AB 48 should we add back into AB 75? Some of those were non-controversial from the beginning. Some of those clearly were. I can tell you the developer fee provisions are not some of those that will be added back into AB 75. And there are others that require, further study because they were presented very late in the game, maybe the last 2 weeks of session. So that's what's going on with AB 75. SB 22 by Mr. Glazer was approved by the Senate Committee on Education on March 8th, and it will be heard by the Senate Committee on Governance and Finance on April 8th. Good news on the fiscal front, in case you missed it, tax revenues are $14.3 billion above the January projection due to the mechanics of Prop 98, and this being what they call a test 1 year. Approximately 40% of that increased amount goes to local educational agencies K-14 through Prop 98, which is good news for that 3% routine restricted maintenance. So it means we'll see a little bit of a bump in that amount. And just a reminder, as we continue to move forward in the legislative and budget process, both the legislature, legislative leaders, and the governor have signaled that they intend to provide additional resources, both for families and schools, to aid in the recovery from COVID and the recession in the May revision. So those conversations are ongoing as both the budget committees, well, the leadership in the legislature and the administration develop those proposals, and we will keep you posted. With that, I'm happy to pass it on to my colleague, Ian.
Hello. Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate that. It's a very good update. What I'm going to do, as Nancy said, was that I'm going to give a School Energy Coalition update. As a lot of you know, I have done a lot of work, and my colleagues as well, on AB 841 and the school ventilation issue. The School Energy Coalition's expertise, particularly right now, as the rubber hits the road with respect to the CEC doing their final pieces of their guidelines. I think it's been a key piece of our advocacy strategy. So yesterday, the School Energy Coalition and CASH, members of CASH, met with the California Energy Commission. They reached out to us because they are finalizing their guidelines and they wanted our input, which we appreciated. And so of course, we met with them, an initial meeting with them yesterday. We brought up a lot of issues. Obviously, some of the issues surrounding the kind of the disadvantaged community pieces, service area, some of the pieces that are kind of difficult for a lot of folks, old systems and new requirements, the new CO2 monitoring piece, the need for replacement, really, how significant that is. Also wanting more details about the specifics of eligibility. And so we had a good initial conversation about those and other issues. I would say at this point, the big pieces of the bill are essentially set in and specified in the bill itself. So there's not a lot of room to move on those. But there's a lot of pieces where CASH, schools, the School Energy Coalition can be very helpful in terms of clarifying the process. And those are some of the things that we're focusing on. Specifically on the school procurement process, helping them to understand what schools are going through. They, of their own admission, don't really understand that and want to know more. So we can be very helpful, we think, in that area. Specific questions like the contractor's estimate versus engineering estimate. Those are into the weeds, but critical as the program is being formed. And then also looking ahead, what's the next steps for this in this program, right? Right now, we're trying to get the train on the tracks for the first year, but this is a 3-year program. So what are those pieces going to look like? Can we address some of our issues going forward? And so we're in a conversation there. We think it's a good one. We have a follow-up meeting with them on Friday to go more into the details. So of course, we'll let you know all about that, how that goes, because that will, a lot of those details will be the details that folks who are interested in applying for these funds will be interested in. So kind of in a pivot, I'm going to go under now the cash maintenance network flag. And that basically, as we are following up, Tom Duffy and I and others are developing more information in this area for our, our April workshops on the 8th and on the 23rd, as Julie pointed out. And so we'll be able to get deeper into those, and the timing is very good because the 841 program is scheduled to open up on May 1st for applications. So much more information is forthcoming. So yeah, again, I know there's a lot of programming out there, but these should be pretty good and substantive. So I highly encourage you, if you're interested in school ventilation with regard to 841, but beyond that, some of the federal pieces, some of the federal funding. John Gordon from the CDE talked about some of those pieces as well. So 841, but looking broader than that as well, is some of the things we're going to be focusing on. Quickly with the maintenance network, also looking at the new 3-foot guidelines from the CEC, kind of from a maintenance perspective. A lot of our folks are thinking about that as well. And then finally, just to also emphasize the good news for the routine, restricted, and maintenance funding, that these over projection, or the revised projection of the tax revenues, that's pretty good news for general maintenance funding. So with that, that's pretty quick, but that's the update. Of course, we're continue to engage on the bond bill and other important bills as they move through the process. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
All right, great, Ian, thank you. I don't see any questions in the chat, so it looks like you hit most of it. So I appreciate that. And also thank you, Nancy, too, on yours. Next up, next slide, we've got the annual conference. Jeff, would you like to talk to us about that?
Yeah, thank you, Julie, and good morning, everyone. We are getting more and more excited for the annual conference on school facilities. It's June 28th through the 30th, with golf on Sunday the 27th before. In person in Palm Springs, and Cash is looking very carefully at the status of Riverside County, and we're pleased that they moved out of purple into red, and their numbers are even approaching the orange tier level. So looking forward and monitoring those conditions. And just personally, I'm looking forward to the benefits that we get when we get together in person. The networking, the exchange of ideas with colleagues, the trade show, and seeing products that I maybe hadn't been considering. So really looking forward to being in person in Palm Springs. If you haven't done so already, please go to the Cash website. You can register there. You'll also find additional information about hotels that are available. The 2 Cash blocks have been sold out, but there are several hotels in the vicinity that you can look at as well. And we also have some opportunities for sponsorship and trade show exhibitor booths available. And you can also find information on that on the Cash website. So again, looking forward to being in Palm Springs from June 27th for golf, and then 28th through 30th for the annual conference. Thanks. And back to you, Julie.
Great, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. All right, our next slide. We have started doing this, and it's really kind of cool, is school district briefing, and we've got a COVID-19 reopening experience. And today we're fortunate to have Maria Campos with Chico Unified School District with us to kind of share a little bit on Chico's reopening experience. So Maria, do you want to come on screen?
Yes, thank you. 1 second, please.
Sure. Oh, great.
Okay,
Doing?
I'm here. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to share some of our experiences. Chico Unified School District is located in Northern California, about an hour and a half north of Sacramento. We are in the Butte County, and we're considered a rural school district for the most part. Our district started the AM/PM model in mid-October. And for us, this model allowed for a more restrictive education environment where we had control of class sizes. Our class sizes were approximately half the students would come in the morning, and that the AM cohort. The PM cohort came in the afternoon. There was approximately an hour and a half time period between two cohorts where a major cleaning, wiping down of surfaces occurred in each classroom in between the cohorts. We did this in hand with other after school programs that were allowed during this time period per our state and local health officers guidelines. We also have an online model for those students and families that aren't comfortable with the AM PM, where they basically just move forward and they have with the program that they initially started with last March, a year now, right? And they are doing their educational model online. Is there any particular aspects of the program that you'd like me to touch base with? Any questions?
Actually, I was going to ask a question real quick. So what decision to go with alternating AM PM as opposed to every other day?
You know, we took surveys before they took it to the board, and it was a team effort. We've got like the education, different departments in the DO, teachers, the different representatives. We conducted a lot of surveys, not only for our teachers and staff, but our parents as well, and other community persons that are affected. And based on the surveys, the education department sat down and figured out a couple different options, brought different options to the table. We reviewed them with facilities and maintenance because it takes a team of all maintenance department workers, including custodial and just our regular maintenance and yard maintenance employees as well, to go through and clean out these classrooms. In fact, there's to sanitize in between two different shifts. There's times where, you know, people call in sick and I've had to clean tables as well, you know, and classrooms and desks. We do what we need to do to make sure it's ready to go for the PM group. But anyhow, backtracking to the question, we took different models to our school board and they were voted on.
Okay, and I do see a question came in, and it's, did you have significant facility challenges?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
You have significant facility challenges?
I would not consider them significant. We've had coordination challenges. We've had because it's AM PM model and we have half the students on site, we're able to socially distance accordingly. It's the coordination of when students come, when they leave, not only cleaning and sanitizing between classes, but drop off and pick up and keeping X amount of parents or no parents within the school. Our teachers actually walk all of our students in the elementary school levels, and drop off and pick up is organized to where students go out to parents' cars as they're coming in. So we don't have additional adults or guests on campus to minimize exposure. So we not necessarily had significant facility issues, but we had significant coordination issues and learning to do.
So, you know, and that's something too that we're concerned with, which is the more the pickup per se. You know, off in the morning. You know, people usually come a little bit at different times. You've got a little bit. You can kind of keep your line. Do you do your screening in the morning with your students at all? Are you doing screening?
Yes, the kids are being screened at their classrooms.
Okay.
In the morning.
And
each site, we have our overall policy and protocol, but each site runs their pickup and drop off a little bit different, just because not every site is exactly the same. And, you know, that's a facility issue, and not every parking lot is designed and as easy to drop off and pick up individually, etc. So there are adjustments needed per site for logistics.
So does your district do hand-to-hand for kindergarten? Basically, does the parent walk the child to the class, hand off to the teacher, and then
So pre-COVID, yes. Post-COVID, they hand the child off to the teacher on the other side of the gate.
Okay.
So parents are allowed to hand walk their student to the main entrance or their assigned gate, and that's where the student is handed off to their teacher.
Okay. And there's a question on busing. Did you make changes to your procedures?
Yeah, I don't oversee the bus department. That's overseen by our MOT director. But I can attest to we've actually cut back our busing to very limited population, including special ed and students with needs. We are still servicing those students, but our general population has been cut back.
Julie, I have a question for Maria. Maria, it's Tom Duffy. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
I think our members probably are aware of this, but I wanted to mention that your district was in so much importance to Paradise when Paradise had its fires, and you supported the district and the students and the like. My question is, because of your location and districts nearby, are you preparing within this pandemic? Are you also preparing for the potential of more disasters like what you experienced with those fires? It seems to now be something that we deal with almost annually.
Yeah. So we've learned a lot the last 4 or 5 years, starting with not only the Paradise fire, but with the possible almost Orville Dam break, which is, affected a lot of our neighboring districts, or would have affected a lot of our neighboring districts if that did really occur. But we are preparing and building for growth per our master plan. We've started that and have hit our master plan hard based on our past bond sale. So this last 7 years, we have really been working on our facilities. Our high schools have been, for the most part, addressed. Our junior highs were addressed, and now we're in our elementary school phase. So yes, we saw an increase of enrollment after the fires, but at the same time, now we've noticed that our enrollment was almost like a net, because we've had so many families just relocate or move. Not all families stayed in the area from the fire. A lot of the families that lived in Chico moved, sold their homes, moved. And so we lost families, but we gained families from Paradise. We noticed the net increase wasn't significant. But yes, we've had to learn to be fluid and resilient in order to help our neighboring districts in case of fires and other emergencies.
Maria, I do see a question that came in from Marty. Do you allow parents to carpool? That's an interesting question.
That is an interesting question. I would have to, Marty, if you'd like to email me, I can reach out to our principals, a couple of our principals. But yes, I have walked the different sides, and I've noticed that parents carpool, and high school kids, I've noticed, have often carpooled as well from our different sites.
I would imagine that many of the daycare facilities that have before school care and after school care, you don't have to.
Sorry, we don't have to have the.
No. I said you almost would have to have.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, you'd have to. And I know that there are some facilities that offer carpooling and drop off and pick up. So to my knowledge, yes, I've seen people carpool. I think that is completely acceptable, but I can confirm with the site principals.
Thank you. All right. Maria, anything else that you wanted to share?
Other than the fact that there was a large learning curve for all departments, not just facility, and our work is not done yet. I know Yuba City Unified, which is about an hour south of us, their board just directed, and I don't know the specific language, but I know that they just directed their schools to look into going back to full-time K through 5. I know that conversations for our district and possibility to go back full-time will be coming soon to our board. It's a very fluid situation. We've learned that even with the model and operating the AM/PM model as of mid-October, every day is different. I know that speaking to principals, it's taking a lot of management just in operating their offices. At one point, I know a principal was out on quarantine, and so was her vice principal and office manager. So it takes a team, and it's not just the team within your school. It takes your management team to make sure this is operational and it moves forward with the least amount of impact for our students. So just hang in there.
Great. Thank you so much, Maria, for sharing that. Yeah, it's, I think fluid is the word for the month, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I would agree. And it's changing. So we just have to be flexible and be prepared to use plan A, B, C, and D in one day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, I have been out directing traffic myself. So
yeah.
I do have my own, guard vest and everything with the
right. Yep. So do I. But, we have to do what we have to do to make sure this is the less impactful transitions, because there's many transitions for our students and parents. It's a difficult time.
Yeah. I'm glad to see you've got students back. That's awesome.
It is. We're lucky. We're blessed to see the kids on campus. As you guys know, our campuses are way too quiet without those kiddos.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Maria. I appreciate that for sharing with us. That's good information, and it's nice to see something working well, very positive.
Yes. Well, thank you. If there's any questions, please feel free to reach out. If I don't know the answer, I know somebody who does. So I am happy to share information.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Okay. So next slide, we have an upcoming RFP or an RFQ, a job opening at your district or firm. Please utilize the CASH Professional Opportunities Job Board to reach a wider audience and more diverse audience. I know that a lot of people think, oh, just this area. No, when you put it there, there are a lot of people willing to move quite different areas within the state, and they're happy to do that. So if you're a CASH member, you can log into the CASH website and post a job or RFQ right there on the webpage. And then, so next slide, our next CASH day is April 28th, and mark your calendars for that. And I did want to say, thank you for posting in the chat box. Kelly Fickle with Global Modulars, thank you so much and welcome. Des Haas with Site Logic, thank you for posting in there for attending today. And also Ryan Knapp, who is the M&O Director at Kern County Superintendent of Schools. Thank you and welcome for sharing with us today. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and hopefully we will see everyone next month. And we will, I think quite a few more districts are out there that are going to be sharing their opening experience happening in March and April. So with that, take care, everyone. I hope to see you tomorrow at the web shop. Take care.